The Kroot may seem a primitive auxiliary of the Tau Empire, but their natural strength, strategic brutality and pack mentality make these warriors some of the most prolific and dangerous in the galaxy. Hearing the shrills and shrieks of a hunting pack could be the last thing you hear. Hello, and in this video we'll be painting a Kroot Warshaper to battle ready. Then we'll be adding a few extra tips and tricks to make our warrior even more brutal. The paints we're using are on the screen now. The great thing about this guide is that you can use the majority of these paints and steps for all your Kroot in your Tau Empire army. We also got a list of the additional equipment we've used, but you can use any brushes you feel more comfortable with and change the mediums with water instead. If you're new to painting or want to brush up on your skills, you can check the Citadel Colour Painting Essentials videos to learn all about paints and techniques. For our Warshaper, we've undercoated it in Grey Seer, as this will give us a light and clean colour to start off our natural tones. We'll also keep a pot of Grey Seer to hand, just so we can tidy up any mistakes. Now we're ready for painting. For the Kroot skin tone, we'll be using Nurgling Green for a light and pale base, using a small base brush. As this is a layer paint over such a light undercoat, we may only need 1 to 2 thin coats for a full and solid coverage. It doesn't matter too much at this stage if you get some of this paint on other areas, as we'll be covering all our details with the rest of our colours. It's good to remember that Kroot have lots of different skin tones, so you can change this up with any other greeny teal colours of your preference, and you could also use this next paint too. Next we'll apply Deathworld Forest to the hide cloak inside and out. Just be careful when applying this colour, as the cloak will be near parts of the Kroot skin, but we can always tidy up any mistakes once our coats of this colour are dry. Don't worry about the spines on the back of the cloak, we'll be painting those later on. This colour can also be used for any of the Kroot skin tones across your army. Now we can move on to adding some natural brown tones. For those quills on the Kroot head, arms and legs, the gun grips and the leather chest guard, we'll be using Mournfang Brown. We'll use a medium layer brush for this, as some of the details are either small or near the skin and cloak we've already painted. So this will help us make sure that our application is neat and tidy. But don't worry if you do make a mistake. Just leave it to dry and tidy up afterwards. Now we'll paint the leather details on the legs and left arm with Dryad Bark. You could also use this to add some darker quills if you want some for your other Kroot warriors. This colour is also perfect for the skin of any of your Krootox beasts you may be painting too. Right, let's keep going and add even more colours. Next we'll use Zandri Dust for the prey hook rope, stitching on the leathers and the Kroot's beak and belly. Just like the other colours so far, just be careful around the other details we've painted, especially when it comes to those stitches, so we can move to using a small layer brush for these tiny details. Now we've got a lot of details painted, let's move on to some smaller but no less important ones. For the leather belt and holster, spines in the hide, nails, small straps and the Kroot's eyes, we'll apply Corvus Black. As there are different shapes and sizes of detail with this colour, we'll use a small layer brush so we can get all of those painted neatly. So if you do make a small smudge when painting the eyes, we can just tidy up around the sockets with some Nurgling Green, but leave most of the socket dark, as we'll be adding some eyes later on. Next we'll use Mephiston Red for the pauldron, weapon wrappings and some of the beads on the rope and head quills. We can also paint the tongue too, but just be neat as you can inside the beak. And if you're not sure what beads to paint, you can always look at the box art or you can make your own choice. Talking about beads, we'll paint the rest of the beads and triangular trinkets with Sotek Green. Don't worry so much about the connective rings on the other details being in blue or even red, as we'll be using some metallics next to paint over those details. For our first metallic, we'll apply Iron Hand Steel to the chest plate, blade stave and prey hook, gun, knife, quill and trinket rings. We'll also use it for a few of the bracelets and metal beads too. With a few thin coats, these details should be nice and smooth and painted in no time at all. And for the other metal beads, blade stave pole, prey hook body, neck hoops, bracelets and any of the small metal details in Runelord brass. Seeing that we're applying this to the pole or the blade stave, this will also tidy up any stray Mephiston Red from earlier. Once all of your metallics are applied and dried, we'll quickly change our paint water, so we don't have any metallic flakes in the rest of our paints. Before we get some shades applied, we'll quickly add a paint to the base now. We'll use Mechanicus Standard Grey on the stones and rocks our Warshaper stands upon with a small base brush. Just a couple of coats whilst being neat will take no time at all. Then we can be ready to shade our details. For the skin, we'll thin down 1 part Celia Green shade with 1 part Lamia Medium with a medium layer brush. We just want to be neat when applying this, as we want to avoid the other details, but we want to make sure that we get all of those recesses of the skin covered, even where the Xandridust belly and beak meets. If you apply too much and notice pooling, just clean and dry off your brush and soak it away. With our skin dry, we'll use Rattling Grime in 2 ways. To shade all the colours apart from the skin, we'll thin down 1 part Rattling Grime with 3 parts Lamia Medium, as this will be a great neutral shade for all our colours, just to get the recesses darker and some details a little bit more worn. Then once that's dry, we'll thin down 1 part paint and 1 part medium, just to add to our metals, making them much darker and dirtier in places. With both our layers of shades, make sure that you soak away any excess pooling before it dries in patches. Now that our shades are dry, our Warshaper is now battle ready and roaring for the hunt. You can stop here and use these steps on other Kroot models in your hunting pack, or you can keep watching for some extra steps taking our model to the next level. To highlight the skin, Sotek green beads and trinkets, all the Xandridust details and the eyes, we'll be using Pallid Witch flesh. We'll be using a small layer brush for these thin lines on any edges and raised areas, so we'll need a sharp point to our brush. We'll get this by rolling and twisting the brush on the palette. This will also help us control how much paint we apply too. For the eyes, we just want a small dot on the black eye sockets. And if you're feeling adventurous, we can add some markings on the pauldron. You can use any type of markings you want. Here we're going to be adding some chevrons by making some small lines bit by bit. You can mark this out with a pencil if it helps. Then fill in the lines with small light strokes. And if you don't want any markings at all, you can skip right to our next paint. And for both metal colours, we'll be highlighting the sharpest edges with Stormhost Silver. As the majority of the metal is darker, the brighter highlight will really give us a worn and damaged look. We can even add some small scratches in places, especially on that chest plate. Just a few lines will make our warrior look really battle worn. Now the brighter colours have some highlights, let's look at the darker ones. For the Dryad Bark, Corvus Black, Deathwalled Forest and Mournfang Brown details, we'll use Baneblade Brown in very light thin lines. This will just add some texture to all those leathery details, so they have a similar worn effect as the metals. And for the Mephiston Red details, we'll use Evil Sun Scarlet to make those rich red details really pop alongside the rest of our details. You can even add some scratches to the pauldron, or even on that marking we painted earlier. Remember, it's your model, so you can highlight as much or as little as you want. With those extra colours applied, our Kroot Warshaper is looking even sharper and deadlier, ready to lead the hunting pack into battle. We based our Warshaper in Astra Granite, so it matches our stony scenery. And if you'd like to learn more about technical paints, we have videos all about them. For more tutorials, tips and tricks, check out our videos on the Warhammer YouTube channel, or head to your local Warhammer store where our amazing staff would be happy to help. Well, we hope you enjoyed this video and we'll see you next time. Bye bye!